Hey y'all, I'm glad that you're with us today, and we are going to look at a story from Mark 5. And I I want to give a little bit of background, just timeline in this. So Mark 4 is where we started a couple of weeks ago talking about the soil and the seed sown. Well, after Jesus goes through all of this about the soil and the importance of the soil and the types of soil and what the soil does to the seed and how it affects the seed growth, then they cross the sea, and you all know the story. Jesus said, he said, let's pass to the other side. And the storm comes up, and Jesus says in Mark 4, they wake him up and they say, how do you not care? We're going to die. And Jesus rebuked the wind and said to the sea, peace, be still. And then the wind ceased and there was a great calm. And he said unto them, so he is saying to his disciples, he's just gone through all the parable, teaching about the kingdom of God, the seed sown, how it grows, how it produces, and they said they were going to die. And then he says to them, why are you so fearful? And how is it that you have no faith? Why are you so fearful? And how is it that you have no faith? And then throughout Mark chapter 5, so they get through this, they get on the shore, and then immediately they are met with, at the tomb, the demon possessed man. I'm going to pronounce it wrong, but he is the one that lived among the tombs, and it was the legions of demons. Jesus cast out the demons. So they have that, and then Jairus' daughter, the woman with the issue of blood. But Jairus is where I want to talk about today. But it was important that I mention the fact that Jesus says to his disciples, why are you so fearful? And how is it that you have no faith? And Jesus is in the boat with them, and they still say, how could you not care for us? We're going to die. Now, for those of you who know Jairus' story, or for those that don't, we're going to read the text here in Mark 4, and it starts at verse 21. And it says, and when Jesus had recrossed in the boat to the other side, a great throng gathered round him, and he was at the lake shore. Then one of the rulers of the synagogue came up, Jairus by name, and seeing him, he prostrated himself at Jesus' feet and begged him earnestly, saying, my little daughter is at the point of death. Come and lay your hands on her, that she might be healed and lived. So Jairus knew that if Jesus laid his hands on her, his daughter would be healed and live. And Jesus went with him, and a great crowd kept following him and pressed him from all sides, so as almost to suffocate him. That was a pretty tight crowd. And there was a woman who had a flow of blood for 12 years, and who had endured much suffering under the hands of many physicians, and had spent all that she had, and she was no better, but instead she grew worse. She had heard the reports concerning Jesus, and she came up behind him in the throng and touched his garment. For she kept saying, if I only touch his garment, I shall be restored to health. And immediately the flow of her blood was dried up at the source, and suddenly she felt in her body that she was healed of her distressing ailment. And Jesus, recognizing in himself that the power proceeding from him had gone forth, he turned around immediately in the crowd and said, who touched my clothes? And the disciples kept saying to him, you see the crowd pressing hard around you from all sides, and you asked who touched me? Still, he kept looking around to see her who had done it. But the woman, knowing what had been done for her, though alarmed and frightened and trembling, fell down before him and told him the whole truth. She told him the whole truth, the whole story, everything. This could not, she had had this issue for 12 years. This could not have been a fast encounter. Meanwhile, is still beside Jesus, and Jesus is on his way to Jairus' house. Now, You put yourself in Jairus' position. You've come to Jesus. You've asked him for help. He's agreed. You're on your way, and then everything stops. And Jesus takes time with this woman. Again, Jairus, what must be going through his mind through this time? We're going to pick up here again tomorrow and finish the rest of our story. Bye, y'all.